Come to class, come to class, come to class. Say hi in the Zoom chat, please. Say hi in Zoom chat if you're in class. Switch on your video so we can see you and say hi in Zoom chat. Don't worry about those who are still away. Come to class so we can get started. Yeah, my sincere apologies. We started late because I shifted. You can hear the echo from the background. House is still empty, so everything is still disorganized. Hopefully, we can take with this one for today, and maybe things will get better along the way. I had to change residence a little bit to make sure I'm next to my workplace. Okay. All right. Last week we summarized the week on Wednesday by speaking about risk assessment and risk profiling. And I remember giving people a small question to write down the steps of a risk assessment, if I cannot forget. Is that what we said? Steps of a risk assessment. I think that was the homework. Hmm? Someone tell us the homework. What was it? Who still remembers the homework? Karan. Karan, open your mic. What was the homework?
What is a risk assessment?
Definition of a risk assessment. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Karan.
Welcome, sir.
Let's have a chat about risk assessment then before we can continue. Can you write? Right. Simple terminology. I will use field work. Okay. A risk assessment is a formal process of looking at an activity. Okay. Identifying what might cause trouble or identify the problems. Let me use what might cause. What might cause trouble during the activity. Okay, and putting necessary precautions in place. So I've used simple English, not the terminology you might see in your book. A formal process of looking at an activity, identifying what might cause trouble during the activity, and putting necessary precautions in place. That's what we call a risk assessment. Some books will tell you a different story in detail. Don't worry, I'm only bringing out what you will do in the field. You look at an activity in the field, you will identify the issues that might go wrong during this activity, and that might go, not what has already gone wrong, no. Okay, you look at what might go wrong during the activity, and you'll put the necessary precautions or control measures in place. This is what we call a risk assessment. Okay, so let's look at the other parts. Now, what you see on the screen is, why do we make a risk assessment? What is the reason? What's the objective for developing a risk assessment? What's the purpose? Why is it important to develop one? That's what you see on the screen. If you can listen, because this, you need to understand it, not writing it. Really, this, you need to understand it. If you don't understand this, what will you do in the field as a safety practitioner? It will be difficult for you to defend what you're doing on the side. Remember, the definition I've given you is a very simple format. Okay, looking at an activity, what is going to cause trouble, or what is the problem during the activity, and what do you think could be the solution to prevent this trouble from happening. Let's say, for example, you have welding. You look at the welding activity before it starts, and then you identify what might bring trouble during welding, and you put the suitable controls in place. That is what we call risk assessing. Okay, to prevent death, personal injury is the basic objective of developing a risk assessment, because our main aim here is save life. So how do you do that? When you write a risk assessment, you'll be putting in what we call precautions or control measures. And the controls main focus is on saving human life. Can you save human life? That is our focus. So when you're developing a risk assessment, we switch our mind and make sure that there is no one going to get hurt and there is no one who is losing their life during the activity. The other types of losses that might come in, can also be prevented along the way. First priority, human life. Then you can prevent other losses. And then third priority, law. We don't want to break the law, because it is a legal requirement for all companies to develop a risk assessment. Then lastly, we want to prevent costs. How do costs come in? If you don't control, you will have accidents. If you have accidents, people are going to get charged. The company might be charged. There will be a lot of loss of material, damage to equipment. All this stuff will happen around you, and all that stuff requires money. So you will be paying money for all these items, and that is referred to as cost. So you have four objectives why you develop a risk assessment. This question is always hanging around in examinations. This one here. Okay. This question is always hanging around examinations. So can you check in your book, please? Identify the page number in your book. Check in your book. Someone says 55. If you get that, remember, what is the meaning of being suitable and sufficient? That's where you start from. Okay? What is the meaning of being suitable and sufficient? What do we mean? We mean, is it suitable for your activity? And does it cover all the hazards in the activity? Does it take care of the lives involved in the activity? Huh? Does it meet the legal requirements? So for a risk assessment to be suitable and sufficient, it identifies all the significant hazards and risks associated with the activity. Okay? And that risk assessment will create prioritization such that your employer or the company that you're risk assessing has the ability to take charge of the controls. Which one will come first? Which one will come last? Not attending to minor issues and you leave big issues pending. So a good risk assessment will pay that prioritization to make sure that you measure on measures and you look at minors later on. Then appropriate to the nature of work. Yes, you cannot bring a retail shop risk assessment and put it in a construction site. The two do not work. So it should be matching the nature of work you're doing. That if you have construction, then your risk assessment should be suitable for the construction activities. If you're in manufacturing, your risk assessment should cater for that. And then if you are in retail, if it's the same, okay? If you're doing maintenance, it should be maintenance. So risk assessments are designed based on the activity, not just copy and paste. It will be valid for a certain time. It's not permanent. Don't say our risk assessment here is good. You need to review. You need to update. Okay. So good risk assessments will be valid for a certain amount of time. And after that time, we need to go back and revisit it, check if things are okay. If things are not okay, we do what we call a revision. So usually good companies will have a revision 000, then next time we review, it will be revision 001. Okay, that's in document control, that's none of your business. Your business is to review. So the document controllers will give the document numbers. So you just tell him, we have revised last year's risk assessment, and this is the updated format. They will give that a number. Okay, can you write down specific risk assessments? Specific risk assessments. Specific risk assessments. Yeah. There are activities on your site or there are issues on your site that will demand a specific risk assessment. Examples: a fire risk assessment. That is not everyday style, no. Number two, a chemical assessment or hazardous substance assessment. So if you have hazardous substances, then you can have to deal with that. Hazardous substances are divided into two, chemical and biological substances. So if you have any of the two as a critical or significant hazard on your site, then you have a duty to ensure that people are, protected. You risk assess them. So we will call it a hazardous substance assessment. Some people like saying COSH, but COSH is a UK law, control of hazardous substances or substances hazardous to health. Number three, a manual handling assessment. Manual handling assessment. Then you can also have a DSE assessment. DSE, display screen equipment. That is also very specific. You cannot have it put in general. Then that was A, specific risk assessments. Then you will have B, a generic risk assessment. Generic. That means it caters for everything. So the one we're going to start about today is generic risk assessment. Okay. All right. Let's have a chance to look at this. These are referred to as sources of information that you could consult when you are dealing with issues on your site. I like summarizing this into four. Okay. Apart from the right-hand side, the external stuff, I like speaking about 4 items. When you're risk assessing, do you know the 4 items? Which 4 items do you know? 1, can you write? Before you do any risk assessment, you should know these 4 things on your site. Category number 1, people on your site. Do you know the people you have? Have you identified the groups of people you have? Do you have any wheelchaired guy? Because when you're risk assessing and you have a wheelchaired guy, you need to start thinking how to help him move around the site, how you are going to handle emergencies if things happen. So you need to think about the people on your site. Number 2, you need to think about your equipment. There are 4 types of equipment. 4. We have hand tools. We have hand power tools. We have single machines, like a small generator. And then we have plant or machine assemblies, like a crane. So equipment is the other thing you need, because when you identify the equipment, you are able to identify the hazards associated with each of the equipment. Number 3, material on your site. You might be using certain material on your site, which is dangerous, hazardous substances, like you're using paint, you're using grease, you're using petrol. Yeah, we need to know where you're keeping it because it is a hazard. Number 4, processes or activities. Yeah, you need to know which activities are going on your site. Activities on your site can be cut into 2 groups. You might have routine activities and you will have non-routine activities. Our routine activities cover daily stuff, and our non-routine activities cover things which come in once in a while, like 3 months, we do it once. We are not doing it every day. Okay, the routine is what you do daily. So if you know these 4 items, it's very easy for you to identify what might cause trouble during the activity. Remember, you know the material, you know the people, you know the equipment, and you know the activity itself. What are the lists of the activities? All right, here are the sources of information. I'm not going to discuss really that because it's I've cut it down into 4 for you. So you'll check here. You will need this for practical. So can you quote it somewhere? Quote it somewhere. You will need it for your practical. Okay, so during your practical assessment, the examiner is going to ask you about what sources of information did you use when you're developing your risk assessment. So you have to select which one. Of course, you're not going to use all of them. So it's upon you to select, will it be accident records? Will it be ill health data? Will it be medical records? Will it be risk assessments from the past? Will it be maintenance reports? Will it be safety inspection reports? It's upon you. Or will it be external document like law, approved codes of practice, an international standard like ISO, or any manufacturer's information? Whereas maybe you can speak about international bodies like ILO, safety publications, trade unions. This is where you can get information when you're developing your risk assessment. Okay, so let's look at the risk assessment itself. Check for that in your book. I believe you can easily get it here. 5 steps of a risk assessment as defined by the HSE, Health and Safety Executive, United Kingdom. Okay, so let's look at one by one so you know what to do. One by one. We're going to look at this one by one. Okay, so next time you go on that site, you know how to risk assess activities. Remember, I still remind you about everything around you is a hazard, but not everything around you is a significant hazard. Quote my words carefully. Everything around you is a hazard, but not everything around you is a significant hazard. So risk assessments focus on significant hazards. Yes, the food you eat is a hazard. But the food you did not store well before you eat is a significant hazard. Yeah, if you left it on the table and some guys had fun on top of it, they left some companions behind, and you come in the morning and enjoy it, well, you'll know what will happen next. Okay? So the food we eat is a hazard, but not all the food we eat is a significant hazard. Electricity in your house is a hazard, but not a significant hazard unless there is a damaged socket, exposed live wiring. Well, once you have damage somewhere, it becomes a significant hazard. So let's look at the first step in the risk assessment, identify significant hazards. I wish you could change that. Okay, change it to significant hazards. Yes, it will remind you always when you're on that site, when we are doing a risk assessment, we don't just identify hazards. No. We identify significant hazards, not just hazards. Okay. So when you do that, go through a walkthrough around your site, you are not looking for anything. No, you are looking for significant hazards. All right. They have given you just examples of what you see on the screen. So dependent on your site, sites come with different hazards. But don't forget the categories: physical, chemical, biological, economic, psychological. Yeah, there are 5 key categories that we use right now around the world: physical, chemical, biological, and psychological, and then economics. So how do we identify hazards? We have methods we use to identify hazards. Hazard identification methods. Number 1 is a task analysis. The process of breaking down each job activity into job stages and identifying what might cause trouble in each job stage, put control. That's called a task analysis. Here, this is a task analysis. You select the activity, that's the job. You record the stages of each, okay, or each stage in this job. You evaluate the risks associated with each stage, develop safe working methods, and implement them, and after that monitor. We'll look at this, don't worry. We'll review this again in element 3.6. Okay, we'll look at it. So let's first focus on risk assessment. Method number 2, the law. The law sometimes designates certain activities as hazards. For example, you're working in Qatar during summertime, the law designates people working under direct sunlight between 11 p.m. and 3 p.m. That is a hazard. So the law prohibits anyone working outside in open direct sunlight during this time of the year. So that means the law is saying that is a hazard. So you need to look at what the law says about your activities. Maybe the law has said your activity is a hazard. Be careful. Manufacturers, whenever someone is making something, they have to indicate to us whether it's a hazard or it's not. Yes. So we are supposed to be identifying this from handbooks, manuals, and data sheets, including safety. There are different types of data sheets. You could have safety data sheets, you could have technical data sheets, so dependent. But safety data sheet will bring out a lot of information for you. And then lastly, we look at incidents on your site. How many accidents have occurred? What was the cause of the accident anyway? So if we know the source of the accident, we can easily identify what is the hazard in this section. So we prevent it from happening a second time. So these are the methodology that will be used. Remember, it can easily appear in exam. That's why I'm taking my time to speak about it. Number 2, we look at who might be harmed. Yes. Yes, you need to identify who might be harmed. Remember, your identification should focus on people who are going to get direct harm first. So if it is a welder, don't write engineer first. No, welder first, because he is in the front line. If it's a mason, it's a mason. So the workers include a lot of people here. Number 2, sometimes we have contractors on our sites, you know. So if you have them, you write down contractor workers. Okay? And then visitors, you can't avoid them. And then the public. Yeah, you can't avoid them too. So among these people here, we have a special group of people that we need to really pay attention to. You remember, I told you when you're developing a risk assessment, you have a duty to look at your people. So this special group of people need attention, special attention, if you have them on your side. The young. Why do we speak about the young people? Young people are trying out things. They want to try that, they want to do this. All of us have been young at one time, so you understand what we mean. Yeah, we get naughty, we want to act funny, we want to act knowing it all, and yet we don't know. So they are vulnerable. We cannot, if we're young, we cannot handle certain activities. We can't manage chemicals. We cannot manage a lot of stuff. Number 2, nursing and expectant mothers. Yes, all of us were babies one time. And if our mothers never protected us, we wouldn't be men and women now. So it's your turn to protect others too. Sorry, we don't use the other words here. You are in safety, you have to avoid those words anymore. Yeah, we don't use the words pregnant and breastfeeding. Sorry, we don't do that. We say nursing, expectant. It's rude for you to tell a lady like that, okay? Safety first. Practice safety, okay? So remember, if you don't protect a nursing mother, then you have not protected the baby too. If you don't protect an expectant lady, you have harmed the baby too. So we have a duty to take care of them. We'll look at what you're supposed to do. There are certain things they cannot do. They are not supposed to be exposed to in the workplace. Sometimes we think, yeah, Khalid, no problem. Everyone's no, we don't do that. And then we have disabled workers. Yes, disability is not inability. So don't say they are not allowed to work. Says who? Where is it written? In which constitution? You don't stop a wheelchair guy to go to work. You don't stop a deaf person to go to work. You don't stop a blind person to go to work. No. We give them tasks that they have the ability to do. Okay? So if you have any of them, when you're carrying out your risk assessment, you need to think about what to do in case. Then lastly, lone workers. It's one of the things which is being abolished around the world. We don't support it. I don't support it. Yes. Lone working is causing a lot of death around the world. Working alone is dangerous. There should be someone around you who can help you, especially working with dangerous machinery, rotating machinery. It's a bad idea. Yeah, there are certain jobs we cannot completely eliminate lone working, but we can at least remove it. So we'll be speaking about this at the end of risk assessment. Let's talk about step number 3. Step number 3 is evaluate and control. Can you write? Yeah, you need to write because you need to know. So first is evaluation. Yes. During evaluation, we look at the risks, existing risk, and compare it to the controls we have currently. I don't know how you summarize that in your own language. Someone might ask you during an interview about the same. Be careful. I say it in simple language. You look at the risk you have on your site and compare it to your current controls. That's called evaluation. You are evaluating, are our controls enough or do we need additional? That's what you're checking. How do you check that? We use the formula. I hope you still remember that. So I defined risk in the beginning. Risk is the same as chance. I put here the word chance, you remember? Chance, and then I put here outcome. So today I have used 4 more words. Sometimes they put here the words, they will put probability. Okay, and they will put here the word severity. Okay, sometimes it's the same thing. So originally, like I said, I had already given you just a minute. I'll transfer that. I'd said here chance multiplied by outcome. This is the first definition we had, if you remember well. Chance multiplied by outcome. Risk is the chance that a hazard will cause harm and its outcome, if you remember that one. So I removed chance and put the word likelihood. I removed outcome and put the word consequence. All right, let's look at this carefully. So can you write? Right, this one is important for you in your work. Risk evaluation and risk evaluation. Risk evaluation can be done in 3 ways. 3 ways. 1, qualitative. Qualitative. Yeah. Qualitative risk evaluation uses words. For example, low, medium, high. Qualitative risk evaluation uses words, for example, low, medium, high. I'm using everyday English, okay? When you go in your book, you'll find different words there. I think they must have put words like insignificant, minor, catastrophic. Huh? You'll find such words. I'm not speaking about those words, okay? Uh, my English is not very good. English malne. Okay. So remember, qualitative risk evaluation uses words low, medium, high. We gauge risk, we estimate risk, we evaluate risk using words. When we look at the risk at our site and we look at the controls, and we put the two on the table and we judge what's the risk level? High. What is the risk level? Medium. What is the risk level? Low. Using words. Okay, that is called qualitative. Number two, quantitative. Under quantitative, we use numbers or numerals, figures. Okay, so instead of words, we use numbers depending on which side you want to go. In certain systems, 1 represents a very high risk and 5 represents a very low risk. However, for today, we will do the other way around. Okay, we will follow the counting chain of 1, 2, 3. We know number one is small and 5 is big. So in quantitative risk assessment, we evaluate using numbers. So we don't use words. We don't say high. No, this time we say, okay, it's 1 out of 5. What is the chance? The chance is 1 out of 5. 1 out of 3. Okay, this is what we do. So in quantitative, we use numbers. The best risk assessors use number 3. Number 3 is semi-quantitative. Okay, semi-quantitative. The best risk evaluators use or risk assessors use semi-quantitative. A combination of two things, words and numbers. Yeah, so you get a word, you give it a descriptor. For example, very low, 1. Low, 2. Medium, high. Medium is 3, sorry, and high is 4, very high is 5. So in certain books, you will not find these words here. These are very everyday words, but they don't like using them in probability. They will use the words unlikely, highly unlikely. Okay, they will use the words probable. Okay, so let's look at that. So remember, I've given you 3: qualitative, quantitative, semi-quantitative. Now you understand the descriptions we have used. So remember, we have to evaluate using the two things: likelihood, consequences. You look at the risk, you judge your site using risk. What is risk? Likelihood, consequences. So you need to put the two together. So when we put the two together, we form that table, which is always referred to as a risk matrix. Yes, we form a table known as a risk matrix. So what does a risk matrix do? We use a risk matrix to do the evaluation. Now you understand quantitative and quantitative. So likelihood, severity. So this is a 5 by 5 matrix, which we're using to do the calculations. So if you follow this table here, you remember the table here, 1 is very low and high is very, 5 is very high. What about consequences or severity? Let me change this word and put there the word the other side. It's the same word, don't worry, it's the same. It can be severity, outcome, consequences, whatever you choose to. So you can see 5 is fatality. We try to avoid the word death. Safety first again. Okay? We try to avoid it. So we write the word fatality. So when you see fatality, you know we are trying to refer to death. So you see number 4, disability. It means you're going to be permanently disabled. You see number 3, hospital. That kind of injury, you are staying in the hospital for at least a month or 2 or 3. Number 2, lost time injury. 2 days at home, no work. 3 days off. Yeah, why? The injury is still, they put bandage. After 2-3 days, you're back to normal. Yeah, let's go to work. And the one is only first aid. Scratch, put plaster, go back to work immediately. No need for you to go home. No. So now you get to know how we do the evaluation. Remember, 1 to 5, even likelihood 1, 5. So if you multiply the two, you create what we call risk zones. Can you write? Right. There are 3 primary colors on the table. Green. Can you write green? Green represents acceptable risk. Green represents acceptable risk. It means the risk is controlled. At the moment, it's controlled. And all we need to do is continue controlling. Otherwise, things might go hard. Then you have yellow. Yellow represents tolerable. Tolerable risk. It's not yet very bad. We can work with it. We can put interim controls. Okay. Yeah, we can work with it. It's not very bad, but we can use it. We can put interim controls. We continue working as we look for permanent solution. However, if we don't get permanent solution, there is going to be trouble. Someone might get hurt. Number 3, red. Red is unacceptable risk. Red is unacceptable risk. It's not allowed. We are not allowed to continue with the work anymore. So on good tables, you will have red starting from 15, unlike this one, which is confusing you. Okay. This is confusing you. Yeah. Your red will start from 15 to 25. And green will only stop at 3. 1 to 3. 4 to 12 is going to be yellow. Lastly, remember what I said about unacceptable risk? Red, activity has to stop. We need to get controls, then we can continue with the activity. No controls, no activity. Okay. Then, lastly, residual risk. Residual risk. The risk that remains behind after controls have been applied. The risk that remains behind after controls have been applied. I believe we are good to go. So let's go now to try out maybe one example. I'm not sure. Risk assessment sample. Ek minute. Anup is asking me about orange. Anup, there is a further description for that. Yeah, but as a safety practitioner, I really don't go that side because it's not really good for me to describe that because it is confusing. Usually we leave our team members on the site lost. Yeah, can you imagine you give a foreman 5 colors? Because the one on the screen is showing us 5 colors. There is dark green, lemon green, yellow, orange, and red. Yeah, so you leave this foreman confused which one is which one. Can I take this one or that one? So to prevent that, we do this. A custom design. Residual risk is not green. Okay, there you go. So this is a sample of what I've been saying. So the name of the risk assessor, let's use Karan. Karan is the best risk assessor in his company. Okay. The date of the assessment today is 30th January. Karan is doing the risk assessment today. Activity, maintenance work. So, Karan, your risk assessment is going to be evaluating using a 5x5 matrix. What is 5x5? Likelihood 5, consequences 5. How did we get 5x5? I hope you still remember this one. Qualitative. And then you have a descriptor, quantitative. So we have combined the two, qualitative, quantitative together. Okay, this is quantitative evaluation, and that is qualitative. That is qualitative, and then this is quantitative. Numbers, words. So I have used numbers and words to create this one here. All right, you can see here, this is what I was telling you, the descriptor of your color coding. Where is Anup? Anup Kidere? Where are you? Come on class, come in class now. Anup, you can see here, I'm trying to show you now that I don't trust multiple colors because they won't give you the exact picture of what you need. So I have used the colors that I can easily interpret. And if I gave this to that foreman who is not very good at English or reading things, he won't have an issue knowing what I'm typing here. So let's have an example of a hazard. Anup, give us a hazard, not Anup. Karan is the one risk assessing. Where's Karan? Karan, give us a hazard in your workplace. You are doing maintenance work. Hey, Karan, we are waiting. Manual handling. Okay. So we are going to say manual handling hazard. We need the real hazard, Karan. So if you're speaking about manual handling, you need to give the real hazard here. Okay, the real hazard will be workers were observed lifting cement bags from the store to the activity area on their backs. See, I have given you a hazard. Okay, so now that we know the hazard, who is at risk? It's our workers, because it's already here. We said it. Do you think visitors will be affected by this lifting? This time the visitors are not involved, because it is the workers who are carrying these bags of cement. How are they going to be harmed? Back injuries, due to lifting of heavy cement bags. Okay, which controls do we have currently at your side? Maybe, I don't know which one you have, but I will say you have adequate lighting at the workplace. That's the first one. What else is there on your side? Maybe the workers have been given PPE. Workers are provided with adequate PPE. See? Oh, you have two. If you don't have anything here, don't write anything. You say nil. Now, can we assess what are the chances of someone getting hurt? Remember your description here. What are the chances of someone getting hurt because of carrying the cement bags? If I'm the one assessing, I'll give it 4. What is 4? If you remember up here, what is 4 in likelihood? 4 is high. Why? Because they are carrying the bags where? On their backs, from the store to the activity area. All right. What is the outcome? We already talked about the outcome here. Back injuries. Yeah, a back injury is this one here. It's a disability. You will not be the same the remaining part of your life. You might need to be supported all throughout the remaining part of your life. So a back injury, I would give it 4. I can't give it 5. Why? Because it is not killing you. Giving it 5 means you're dead. So we will give it 4. So now we have 4 by 4. We go back to our table. Likelihood was 4. Consequence is 4. Where are the two meeting? 16. So our risk level is 16. What is 16? We come to the descriptor. 16 is red. What is red? Unacceptable. It means we need to stop the activity. No one should carry any bag anymore until we get the solution. Now, Karan has a duty to advise his management to prevent the unwanted from happening. Okay? Because The risk rating is already in red. If he does not speak about this, one of the workers might go home in a wheelchair, or they might never come back to work again. So it's now Karan's duty to do what? To come here. So I have been speaking to you about evaluation all along. This part starting from here, going that side, is called risk evaluation. Now I'm going to go to part 2. Can you write? Part 2 in step number 3 is control. Designing control measures for your risk. Okay? Designing control measures for your risks. So you have a duty to start now designing risk controls. How do you design risk controls? We'll come back to this form, don't worry. We'll come back to the form. How do we design risk controls? We follow this formula here. You must have seen it in your book, the hierarchy of risk controls. The best choice you can have is to eliminate the problem from your side. So Karan has a duty to select which one. Can we remove this activity? But if Karan removes the activity from the site, tomorrow morning he has no job. Why? No need safety, no activity, no need safety. Yalla, go home, all of you. So he has to be creative. He has to think about something else. Maybe we could substitute the activity. It's not possible for you to substitute the activity. So you got the next one. The first two are not working because cement must be carried, it must be used. 2, we can't stop using cement. We cannot substitute cement with something else which is not heavy. It's not there. So we will go to engineering controls. Some items designed or ideas designed by humans which help us do our work safely. So Karan might think about something to tell management. What? Buy a trolley. Yeah, buy a trolley so workers can carry the bags of cement from the store to the work area using a trolley. It's easy. All you do, load it on the trolley, push it there. See, that's one. He has one to go. Maybe he could speak about something else on top of the trolley. You will advise management. Maybe we train our people how to do lifting. We train our team members, we give them information, we give them instructions, we train them properly how to do. And then also he could encourage frequent break. Yeah, you work for 20 minutes, you rest for 20 minutes. You see? Yeah, it's relaxing, not overdoing it. And then lastly, PPE is already there. So this hierarchy of control will be used in the designing of controls in your risk assessment. So I'll come here. What can we do? Provide load handling aids. Which one? Give example. Such as, you could say a pallet truck. You could say a trolley. You could say a sack truck. Then I also said training. Train workers in safe manual handling techniques. See? Oh, before I forget, reduce exposure through frequent breaks and job rotation. So now Karan has advised his management to do these items here, three things that he's telling them to do. So can we now rate the risk? Do you think we have reduced the risk of manhandling? If we give workers a pallet for carrying bags of cement, there is no more the likelihood of someone getting injured has gone down. They are no longer carrying heavy objects. So maybe we are going to reduce it from 4 to 1. Yeah, why? Come up here. The chances of someone getting injured because of manhandling is now very low, because now they are going to push using a trolley. What about the outcome? It doesn't reduce. Yeah, the outcome does not reduce. The consequences do not reduce. It will remain 4. Why? Even if there is a trolley and one guy rejects to use the trolley and says, I will carry my bag, that's now very low, they will get injured. The injury does not change from this one here. It's the same thing which will happen. Whether there is trolley or no trolley, if you do manual handling, you get the same injury. That's why 4 remains 4 and doesn't reduce. So the new risk level is 4. Have you seen? So if we went back here, what is 4? 4 is green. It's now acceptable. So the risk is adequately controlled. So the last part Karen has to do is giving a time scale or a priority. Which one will come first? Which one will come last? So when do you think we can buy the pallet trucks? Don't say one day, because you need to sign LPO, you need to send it to your head office, they need to stamp it, they need to give it to GM to approve. So one day, not possible. It's not reasonable. So maybe Karen will tell management, okay, I've given you 1 month to do what? To buy the trolleys. That is reasonable. They need to solicit fund. They need to get orders from the suppliers to compare them, who is giving us a cheap rate. They need to agree down payment, all that stuff. So leave them 1 month, okay? And then you have training workers. Maybe Karen himself, since he's a safety in charge, he can train the workers. So we can say within 1 week. Don't again put 1 day, because they are working, they have a schedule. So you cannot just wake up in the morning, okay, gentlemen, today we have manual handling training. Huh? Are we suspending the work to do manual handling training? So you will need to timetable it. So you can give yourself 1 week, inform the concerned department, tell them, okay, gentlemen, we have a problem. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 as a company. We have organized 2 hours manual handling awareness training. Finish. What about reducing exposure? This can be always. Maybe you don't need the time frame for that. It should be continuous. Every time we have manual handling, encourage people to take a frequent break to reduce exposure. I guess we're good. So every good risk assessment, like I have done here for you, will have a review date. So I've covered step number 4. I've covered step number 4. What do I mean by I've covered step number 4? Here. Under step number 4, we record significant findings. So before we go there, let's have a chat about these items here. We already talked about the hierarchy of controls, so I won't be taking a lot of your time. Hierarchy of controls has eliminate. If possible, can you eliminate the hazard? If you cannot, can you substitute? For example, instead of using hardwired equipment, let's use battery operated. Yeah, it's a better substitute. It's still electricity, but it doesn't harm you immediately. And then you can think about engineering controls, which include isolating total enclosure. Isolating total enclosure segregation is always common in material storage. For example, chemicals will be stored in an isolated place. That is an engineering control. We prevent anyone going there. Okay? Then you can have devices. We call them machine guards. Yeah, I will say this later on, I will repeat it again. A micro oven in your home is a deadly machine. Yeah. However, the manufacturer has been tasked to install a machine guard that protects anyone who is operating the micro oven. How does that machine guard work? That machine guard works with the door. It's an interlocked machine guard. When you open the door, the power source or power line to the micro oven is connected with the door. The moment you open, power supply is cut. When you put it back, it's good to work. So that's an example. Another example is a dryer on your washing machine. The moment you open, stop spinning. When you close, it's good to go. So these are referred to as safety devices. Another example is a fuse in your electrical circuit. So administrative, I will talk about them already, safe system of work, reducing exposure, information instruction, training and supervision, and then lastly, it's PPE. As we go for our break, I want you to write this because I need answers from you. Write this one. Describe the different types of safety signages. Describe the different types of safety signages. All right, everyone. We have a 20 minutes break. Keep time. Unless someone has a question for me, switch on your video. Switch on your video so you can be recognized that you're here. Thank you very much. Switch on your video so you can be recognized you're here. Not me. Okay. I'm not the one recognizing you. No, I'm not the one. Okay. Make sure you ask questions. I think I've answered all the questions that we asked. Yeah. Should you have a question, please don't hesitate to ask. If you have anything to say, if you have a question to ask now. So we are good to go. All right then, everyone, keep it safe. 20 minutes would be enough for us. Keep time, please. Some people are not here. That's why I'm waving at the camera. I'm waving at the camera because some people are not here. Come on, come on, come on, everyone. Come back. Say hi. Yes. Hi in the chat. Don't worry about those who are not here, okay? They will find us on the way. It's none of our worries. If they don't want to appear, we have fun. So we went out when we were talking about safety signages. I've seen some answers from some people, and yeah, some people talked about the 5, but they did not give the descriptions. You're supposed to be giving description of the signage. Some people are giving only example. They gave the signage and they gave the example. That's it. We have 5 types of safety signages in occupational health and safety. Okay. There are different signages. For example, road safety has its own signages, so you need to leave that. Okay. So here we're talking about site management. This is referred to as prohibition sign. The description I expected from all of us is that a prohibition sign is a red circle with a diagonal bar and a black pictogram. Red circle, diagonal bar, black pictogram. The warning sign is a yellow, black triangle, yellow background, black pictogram. A mandatory sign is a circular blue background, white pictogram. A safe condition sign is an oblong shape, green background, white pictogram. And fire safety sign is a red oblong, white pictogram. Okay, so examples here would be no smoking, high voltage, PPE mandatory zone, assembly point, fire extinguisher. Okay, these are just examples that you need to know. Remember, you need to know how to describe the signage. You need to learn how to describe it yourself. Don't forget, because you're in safety. There are some small things you need to know, you as a safety practitioner. All right, the last control measure is PPE. However, there are certain factors which you might need to know when you're selecting PPE. Can you quote this? Because this might be very useful for your exam. It might appear in the exam. So you need to know that when you're selecting equipment or PPE, it should be suitable for the what? For the job, economics, it fits properly, and is not a risk again. Okay. Secondly, the PPE should comply with standards. Yes, PPE should comply with standards. What kind of standards? There are different standards for different PPE certification. Yeah, not everything is just like that. So make sure it complies with the necessary standards. Ensure that the PPE is compatible with other items you have. What items are we talking about? Maybe I am putting on ear mask, ear muffs, and I have to put on a helmet. The two are not compatible unless you buy for me a helmet with inbuilt ear muff. So you need to think about compatibility. You're giving me a respiratory mask, but again, you want to give me a face shield, and the two are not, compatible. One is affecting the integrity of the other. So you need to think about that. Give people suitable storage areas where they can keep their PPE. Make sure that people receive information, instructions, and training. Make sure you have enforcement action against people who are not putting on PPE. Enforce the use of PPE. And lastly, procedures for replacing and repairing damaged PPE. So, in your book, can you check what are the limitations and benefits of using PPE as a risk control method? Check in your book, find out uh, what are the benefits and limitations. Which page number? Can tell us the page number where we can find that. Someone is not finding the page number. No page. Okay. Here. You're not checking your book. The benefits and limitations of using PPE. You need to know them because the examiner might throw something at you like that. You need to understand that PPE can be used as an interim control. Okay? Interim means short term. Huh? In some situations, it may be the only control. For example, first aid. Yeah. Emergency handling. It may be the only control. You cannot go to rescue someone when you don't have PPE. It's usually cheap. Yeah, and most companies prefer the cheap stuff than the expensive. So they will be willing to buy any PPE you say, not implementing the other countries. You say we have to substitute this, and no, la. Maybe we need this. It gives immediate protection. Yeah, you are able to walk around your site with your shoes freely without any fear because the shoe is PPE. If we gave you to remove the shoe and start walking, how will be your style of walking? Pass anywhere. Maybe you'll come home with damaged feet, unless your environment is not yet polluted. And then the other thing is that it can only protect one person. That's the limitation, number one. Yeah. I hope you have ever seen PPE, which a safety shoe which is worn by two people at the same time. So apron for two people. Can you imagine? We have one apron for two people. So when you're walking, you need to walk like an elephant, maybe. Maybe you'll change your walking style. Or helmet for two people, helmet for two heads. Huh? um, it may not protect adequately if you don't wear it properly. Yeah. Sometimes some people don't wear PPE properly and it ends up not working. Actually, the PPE ends up to be a hazard itself. So it may not be comfortable. Yeah, most people don't like it because it becomes uncomfortable for them. They feel like, why am I putting on even this thing? Huh? And sometimes PPE increases the risk. Why? Because it blocks your perception. You remember perception? If you put something here, you cannot hear. You put something here, cannot smell. If you put something here, your sight is a little bit reduced. So That's why we're saying it can be a hazard, can increase the risk. It may not be compatible with other items. Mm, maybe, you never know. So think about before you buy a helmet and EMF, maybe you could buy a helmet with EMF. I use that example. And people don't like putting on PPE. Yeah, don't worry, you're going to receive the name helmet when you go on the site. Safety coming, where's helmet? So because you're a hazard, so when you're coming, we need control. When the hazard is not there, no need control, remove. You are the one who is a hazard, because when you're coming, people put on the helmet. And when you're done, when you have gone away, people don't put on the helmet because everything is under control. The hazard is already removed, eliminated. Okay. So I hope you are not a hazard on your side. Okay. And once it fails, it fails. So you need to think about that. All right. We already talked about this type, so I'm not going to repeat this. Remember this one? We talked about it already. Residual risk, acceptable risk, tolerable, unacceptable. I hope you still remember that in the risk matrix. Yeah, some people have already forgotten. You need to pay my overtime, because you want me to rewind again. And already we have discussed this in this table here. Here, if you remember that. We talked about the color coding, green, yellow, red. And where did the green, yellow come from? It came from here. Now we have this, if you remember, as residual risk. The risk that remains behind after controls have been applied. Okay. What do you record? This is what you record. The one you have seen here. The name of the assessor, the date of the assessment, the activity being assessed. Then hazards, people at risk, how they will be harmed, existing controls, risk rating, additional controls, time scale, responsibility. So this is what you will be recording in your risk assessment. This here, name, date, main activity, and then hazard, people at harm, how will they be harmed, existing control, rating, additional, residual risk, time scaling. There is also responsibility. I didn't include in the column for responsibility, but it's there. Who will help us to implement this one? Who will be the action holder? Okay, this is what we talk about. There is one more thing which I want us to discuss, and that is review date. Okay, your risk assessment to be complete should have a review date. How do you know the review date? The review date is dictated by the time allocated on the scale. So the time scale, the highest time scale here is 1 month. So our review will be after 1 month. So 1 month from today will be 2nd of March 2021. So this is when Karen will review the risk assessment. How did I determine 1 month? It's here. So if you put here 1 year, then your review date is going to go to 1 year, if anything has come to that. All right, let's have this. Can you note that? Because that is very important in your exam. The examiner might task you to explain why you think risk assessments should be reviewed. Why should risk assessments be reviewed? The first one is a significant change in your workplace. What kind of change? A change in the processes or activities. a change in material or substances. You have introduced new equipment or new technology on your site. Your workplace environment has changed. People have changed. You have a new wheelchair guy as a member of staff. Okay? We need to consider him in the risk assessment. Secondly, risk assessments will be reviewed once they have been considered to be invalid. They are no longer valid. How? What makes a risk assessment invalid? An accident at your site. Okay? And then secondly, a near miss. Crane collapse, no one is injured, no damage. That is a near miss. Ill health, someone has become sick because of work. It means our risk controls are not working. We need to update them. The change in law. Once there is a change in the law that governs your activities or risk assessment of activities, that means your old risk assessment becomes invalid. You will need to revisit it and make it match the new law. And lastly, periodically, based on your company's SOP, standard operating procedures for risk assessment. So if your company has that procedure which says we shall review our risk assessments after 1 year, well and good. You review your risk assessment after 1 year. Okay. All right. We have now to focus on special people. Let's start with young persons. If you are developing a risk assessment and you have a young person on staff, what would you consider? Okay. What are the factors that you take into consideration if you have young person? Young persons, we don't mean babies. No. Okay. We are referring to people who are about to start working. University graduates who are interns, they are coming on the site for the first time. They're coming for OJT, on-job training. They're coming to get the experience. What do? They don't have experience, remember? They are physically and mentally immature. Their risk perception is bad. And they are easily influenced by their friends. Yeah, you see that red button behind the boss? If you press it, all hell will break loose. You try it, you will see. Tomorrow he will be waiting for the boss to get out of the office so he can press the red button. Why? He wants to test what the friends were saying. So it's part of growing up. That's the only thing you can do is control them. They are always eager, full of energy. How do we deal with them? They are not allowed to do certain high-risk activities. Completely prohibited. They are also prohibited doing overtime. They cannot be exposed to certain chemicals because these chemicals will make them disabled for the remaining part of their lives. They will not enjoy that part of their life. Okay? And they will need constant supervision. They will need training such that they understand what they are going to deal with. All of us have been young. Yeah. If you're not protected, you'll not be sitting here in class now. So come on, protect others also. Okay? Thank you very much for understanding. Well, how about if we have the next group, an expectant lady or a new mother? No chemicals. Yeah, no chemicals. No biological agents. Remember, what affects the mother affects the child. So protect others too from that. No manual handling. No temperature extremes. No vibration. No radiation. Night shift, not allowed. Stress, no girigira. Yeah, no girigiri. And lastly, no violence. So everything here is no. These are the factors you'll consider if you have expectant or new mothers. If you have someone disabled on your staff, yeah, wheelchair, then identify where they sit, what they do, find out what is the disability with them, because when you know, you can sort it out. How? You will need to put in place certain arrangements, emergency, access, because if he's a wheelchair, he will need a ramp to access your building. So you need to put their office on ground floor, not 10th floor. He's in a wheelchair. What do you expect him to go if there's a fire? So ground floor, you will need to allocate him someone to assist them in case of emergency. Okay? Remember, think about them. And then lastly, you need to work on welfare. He's not, or she's not going to go in the usual toilet that everyone goes to. No, they need something special. So think about it and prepare in advance. Okay? Then, lastly, a lone worker. People who go away from their friends. They are alone. Think about violence. Think about emergency handling if they are injured as a team. Think about these two things. Communication, transportation, okay? And time schedules. Don't send someone in a dangerous zone, they're alone at night. You're putting them in trouble, you know? So think about this, okay? All right, that is the end of risk assessment. I hope now you understand what to do when you're going to develop your risk assessment. I hope where is Ekminta? Okay, this form here, you should access it and do the magic. Yeah, I showed you last time on Wednesday, I showed you how to access the form, start looking at it. So you remember sources of information? There you go. Good luck, okay? And how you identified hazards, methods of hazard identification. Okay. All right, let's look at this one here. We'll try. So Karan's example will fit here. Only thing missing is risk rating. That's the only thing missing. It would have been here. Here. It would have been here. It's not matching up. Why like this? I cannot edit the original form. Sorry. I'm misbehaving with the NEBOSH form. It's difficult to deal with, but I'll try. Still not coming out. Anyway, the only thing missing here is the risk rating here and the residual risk here. The same thing is remaining. So start practicing. start practicing. Okay, can we introduce, let's introduce element 3.5, change management. Change management. Change at your site can cause trouble if not managed properly. Yes. Specifically, we're talking about temporary works where you have to switch off the power so you can work in a certain area. You have to block the emergency exit because you're doing maintenance. Huh? You are going to block the welfare area, the toilets and drinking water because you want to do some renovation. So those kind of activities, whenever they are being carried out at the site, they are a danger to everyone. Okay, so what would bring a change? Temporary works like short-term building projects, maintenance, renovation, demolition, excavations. These are not going to stay for long. Okay, so usually we need to start thinking how we can manage change. And the examiner will ask you, how do we manage change? This is how we manage change at a site. Before the activity comes around, think about this. Have you risk assessed the activity? If you did you communicate with the people who might be affected and create a cooperative work environment? An example, I'm an electrician. Mohammed Shamsu is working in front office. Huh? He's supporting the manager, receiving email and doing admin work. Me, the electrician, we have to do some maintenance front office. I don't just arrive in the morning and tell Mohammed Shams, Habibi, we need to repair this thing, okay? You need to step aside. No, he will refuse. Yeah, he will disappoint you. So what do? Communicate to him 1 week early. Excuse me, gentlemen, next week on Sunday, we are going to do maintenance work for the manager's area. We're going to correct the electrical connections. Okay, very good. Then you go to the second part. We will need your cooperation during entire activity. Why? We are going to switch off electricity that you're using. Can you find an alternative, plan B? Just for 1 day, after 1 day, you'll come back to work in your area. That is called cooperation. Otherwise, there will be conflict of interest. I want to switch off energy. The admin wants to switch on energy. That's the problem. Competence. Have you looked at the people going to work? Are they competent? If they are not, mushkil, big trouble. Okay? Segregation. If you're doing maintenance in the front office, can we isolate it first of all for short time? Put barricade, tape, huh? So people are safe. No one is accessing the activity area. That is called segregation. Isolate the work area. Okay. And then have you talked about emergency? Maybe your activity is blocking the main emergency route. Maybe your activity is switching off the alarm. Maybe your activity is switching off the detector. So if you switch off the alarm, if there is a problem, we don't know how to alert people. So whenever you're going to do maintenance work, think about it. I am going to switch off the alarm system. Okay, what's plan B? Get a megaphone on standby. I am going to block the main emergency route. What's plan B? Create an alternative route and make sure people know it. Okay. And then lastly, welfare. The same thing you've done in emergency should be done in welfare. Plan B. If you're blocking the main, the toilet areas, the water, have you thought about the alternative as you finish up your work? Think about it. So this is change management, and that's the end of change management. The examiner might ask you about that. Any questions for me? Questions, please. Questions. Any questions? I think, when did you start your class? Was it Monday 18? Tell me, when did we start the class? '25 January. Ekminter. 25 January. Okay. Tick. 25 January. Abdullah says these types of exam will be in practical. Abdullah, IG1 is written exam. Huh? Okay, Habibi, IG1 is written exam. Not practical, la. Practical, yes. Risk assessment only will be the knowledge you have gathered in risk assessment, you will use it in practical. Okay? Tick. Now you're good to go. Okay. Any other question? We can now open up your mic if you have a question, because I will not be introducing this guy here today. No. If I introduce this one today, I will be a hazard. I don't want to be a hazard today. La. No. I need to be a control measure, not a hazard. Okay? I need to be a control measure and not a hazard. So, not today. If you have a question, you put up your hand, we will select you, open your mic, and you say something. Thank you very much. We are waiting. Those with questions, where are you? No one has question. Okay, here. I want to see people writing something here tomorrow. Okay, I'm not going to teach you how to write here because this is already given an example. So you are going to write about one hazard. One. Look for this form. Okay. When describing safety signage, does it require diagrams? No. No need diagrams. Okay. You don't need to be the artist, artist of the year, drawing the prohibition sign very nicely. No. We are not doing that. Okay. How many total questions in exam? Exam is different. August had 10 questions. October had 8 questions. I think December had 7, I'm not sure. I think 8 or 7. So the examiner chooses. But if it is going to be 8 questions, 2 questions will have 20 marks. If it's going to be 8 questions, 2 questions will have 20 marks each. Which are some of the disciplinary measures that can be instituted to non-compliant persons? Huh? I don't know how you punish your people in your company. I am not really supposed to be discussing that because that should be written down in your SOP. You remember we talked about policy? Your SOP will describe what should be done to people who disobey what rule. For example, if we catch you smoking in a non-designated area, then there will be, in your SOP, there will be a written, it's a policy. So you will say, we will do 1, 2, 3 if we catch you smoking in a non-designated area. An example, if you're caught drunk at the site, I think the company does something. Where do they get it from? It's written in your company's procedures. So don't do random decisions. Huh? You are fired. Ah, that's not the way we do things, okay? Don't do like that. Follow your procedure, your SOP. If the procedure says indeed that if someone is caught doing 1, 2, 3, they should be terminated, then that's okay. Okay? I'm not saying termination shouldn't be a punishment. It can be, dependent on the level of the consequences you are causing to others. Yeah, termination can be really good. However, I am of the view that when you're developing your company procedures, you include the punishment. When we catch you at height without harness, don't put money, okay? Come on, don't cut people's salary. This guy is earning 1,200, you're cutting off 200. What are you doing? Are you solving the problem? I think you're making him your enemy. He will be waiting for revenge. And revenge is sweet, if you don't know. He will wait for you at the corner. One day you will come to him seeking to do something and say, nah, I don't know anything. Payback time. So be careful, don't do that, okay? NEBOSH will give us 1 day for IG1 and IG2. Huh? Abdullah is already trembling because of exam. We want someone to give Abdullah first aid. Anyone can help. He's already worried about NEBOSH exam. Someone help us give Abdullah first aid. NEBOSH open book exam will be 24 hours. Open book exam is IG1. IG2 will be submitted at a later date or an early date, depending on your course provider. So ICON will be coming up with the program when you can submit your practical. TK? Abdul? Emmanuel says, how do I access the NEBOSH risk assessment format? Emmanuel, ask your friends in class how you go to the NEBOSH website. It's good. Someone should understand that. They will be explaining to you. But it's found on the NEBOSH website, okay? Under IGC, you go to resources, you'll find something there. 20 marks question, how many words? Come on. Huh? You are still writing how many words? Huh? So I hope people are not so scared about exams. Guys, exams doesn't bite. Huh? It doesn't bite, no? I can ask you a question now. People have done this exam. People have passed, right? You can pass. That is, if you pay attention. Here is a sample of someone asking me 20-mark questions. You don't need to write anything. You just need to answer the question. Please. All you need to do is answer the question. No, I'm not authorized to send you the risk assessment. Sorry, Gary, I cannot really send you the risk assessment. It's not in my powers. That's why last time I showed you how to go to that website and get it. And besides, I think someone shared it in the group, right? In the WhatsApp group. And can we download it? If you can download it, then put it in your WhatsApp group. This is good. Someone can do as a service, download it and put it in the WhatsApp group. That will be nice of you. Thank you very much, whoever is doing that. Okay, here is a 20-mark question. Huh? Someone was asking me how many words. Do you see any words here? Did they say write 20 words, 500 words? It's not written there. Okay. Can you write? Stop fearing what you're writing. Write your answer. Present yourself to the examiner in the most accurate way. And don't worry about what they will say. Just present yourself. The total answer template will have a maximum of 3,000 words. Total answer template, maximum of 3,000. And you are free to do up to 10% extra, 110. That means 3,300. But trust me, 3,000 words, you will not even reach the 2,500 mark. So don't worry about what to write, just write. Okay, this exam had 8 questions. Yes, 8. That's the end of exam. You can see down there. It's had 8 questions. Any other question? What does it mean by based on scenario? I know last time I told you there is a scenario. Every of your examination now comes with a scenario. Here is the scenario. They will give you a scenario. I'm not meant to discuss exams now, but there is a scenario. You're supposed to read through the scenario. Okay, read it carefully, and it will guide you on how to answer your exams. Okay. Please explain it. I'm not explaining anything to do with the exam now. I talked about that. I said we have to go step by step. When we're done with discussing IG1, then we can speak about the exam. And everyone who is in the class now, our focus is now IG1 because that is where your exam will come from, the written exam. 4 elements. So far, we're about to finish element 3. So tomorrow by end, we'll be finishing element 3. And we'll move to element 4. And once we're done, maybe by Monday, element 4 will be bye-bye. And you can now start thinking about exam. Warning, your scenario will be totally different from the one you have seen. It will never be the same. Your scenario will be completely different. Your questions will be completely different. However, the concepts will be the same. Okay? Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about that. That is the examiner's decision to make. Okay? Okay, everyone. Now that you asked me a lot of exam questions, maybe you need exam from me. Huh? Yeah, I think it is not going to be viable for people to write the risk assessment because I'm not authorized to share with you the risk assessment form. Can you write something for me? What are the factors considered when you're developing a safe system of work? That's our homework. Okay. Factors considered when developing a safe system of work. No jaldi, no. Make sure you do your research properly and write it properly. What factors would you consider when you're developing a safe system of work? Okay, you have a safe system of work in your book. Think about it, read about it, go and research on the web, find someone to ask. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, everyone. That makes the end of our discussion today. We see some of our friends are at work and they are hiding. The homework is typed in the Zoom chat, please. Go to the Zoom chat, you will see the homework. They are hiding behind doors and cabins to attend the class. Okay, can we help them, please? Otherwise, they might nab them and they will throw them out. We don't want them to miss this opportunity of finishing the course with us. Okay. Okay. See you tomorrow, everyone. Keep safe. Wear a mask. We are arresting people for not wearing a mask. Wear a mask, please. Yeah, people are being arrested. Today it has been in the news. More people have been arrested in public areas without a mask. Wear a mask and keep social distancing. Okay? We need to see your certificate in NEBOSH. Don't pretend, oh, you see, I had corona, this is why I failed. La, that's a bad excuse. We want you to take the exam and you need to have to pass, okay? All right, everyone, see you tomorrow.